morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a look at the updated... Well, here's the thing, right? I'm calling it the updated Play Pokemon Tournament Rules Handbook, because technically that's what it is, except it's not really an updated Play Pokemon Tournament Rules Handbook. It's the first time we've ever seen one. We used to have a document called the General Event Rules, and we used to have a document called the Penalty Guidelines, and they have been mashed together into the Play Pokemon Tournament Rules Handbook. There we go. Now, I do need to give a massive shout out at this stage to the lovely folks over at Pokegym.net. There is a really nice article over there which I will link in the description, and basically it helped me figure out exactly what was new and what wasn't. So all the opinions within this video are very much my own, but in terms of pointing out what was new and what wasn't, thanks to Pokegym. So starting off then, a lovely little change. Food and drink is now banned from the play area, and this has got to be a good thing, right? The official wording that we see over here is, in addition, the following items are prohibited from being brought onto the play surface: food and beverages, pre-written notes and or written aids. Well, the notes we always knew about, but this is very new in terms of food and beverage. For a long time, we've not liked it, but it's not, I believe, been an actual official rule up to now. Now there is. Now, as with everything, unless explicit permission is given by event staff, so the judges can allow you to do so, but there should be no more having to ask your opponent to put their drink on the floor. It should be done as a matter of course. Tournament entry. Now, this is one that really got me. There are two notes here which I think are pretty big. First of all, organisers may choose to offer prioritised registration to players who regularly attend Pokemon League sessions at an associated league location. Or to put it simply, they can prioritise regulars. They can basically hold spaces, it seems, for at least a period of time for your regulars. That's kind of good. It doesn't mean that you can only have it open for regulars and ban anybody else. That ain't the same thing. But it absolutely does mean that you are allowed to, well, prioritise other people, prioritise people that come along regularly. It also says organisers may choose to completely disallow entry to any person they feel to be a threat to the safety or enjoyment of others, or whose presence has previously proven detrimental to the event location for any other reason. And this is pretty huge, and as long as you're not one of those annoying people, it doesn't apply to you. It basically means that the person who runs your tournaments cannot let someone come along who you know is going to be a nuisance, who's usually a nuisance, etc. You don't have to wait for a person to be banned. You can just tell them not to come along. Now, a fairly small change, unless you're an event organiser. They've actually now given some proper guidance on what happens if the organiser cannot make it. Now, generally speaking, in the past, the organiser had to be there regardless, but there's now a note that says, in exceptional circumstances, Pokemon organised play may allow for the responsibility of a tournament to be passed from one organiser to another. Should these circumstances apply, the current organiser should submit a request through the Play Pokemon customer service team. Each request is considered individually on a case-by-case basis, which can be pretty big if you're not able to make it for illness or whatever. Now, remuneration of staff, there's a whole bunch of complicated legal reasons as to why Pokemon are not going to tell you how to remunerate their staff. It's all contractual, etc. Maybe one day I'll make a video going, hey, I've got a law degree, here's the deal, but for now, let's not. But I did want to point this out because it says, Pokemon Organised Play makes no recommendation regarding the remuneration of tournament staff beyond the reminder that judges and other volunteers contribute an added value to the tournament experience and should be made to feel appreciated. Now, in the article on Pokegym, they do go out of their way to say, yeah, you really should remunerate your staff. You're not told to. Officially, you don't have to, and Pokemon aren't telling you to. But yes, you do have to. And what's he's telling you to? It's rare that, at least as far as I've learned, that staff are actually paid for doing these events, especially the smaller ones, but certainly remunerated with product and stuff is an excellent idea. Just a nice little note that we're actually moving a little bit into the future here. Paper records may be retained until the end of a tournament to aid with solving any potential discrepancies that may arise. They should then be immediately destroyed. Used to be the case that they had to be kept around for a while. That is no longer the case. Now, for me, as somebody who does this and has streamed officially Pokemon in the past and very much hopes to in the future, there is a really important note here about streamed matches. Now, it does say the matches may require additional equipment or considerations, such as new card sleeves, playmats, apparel, or the use of noise-cancelling headphones, and players are expected to abide by these considerations. Cool. Players are reminded that by entering or remaining at a sanctioned Play Pokemon event, they agree to abide by the information stipulated under the Publishing Tournament Information section of this document. Players are not permitted to voluntarily decline participating in a streamed match, or to put it bluntly, if you're told to go on stream, you've got to go on stream. Now, in exceptional circumstances, the organiser may, at their own discretion, decide that it is in the best interests of all involved that the chosen match not be streamed. However, it should be noted that this is reserved for truly uncommon circumstances wherein a serious detriment may occur to the player's ability to participate fully in that match. Okay then. Also, if players believe that their individual circumstances may make it prohibitively difficult for them to appear on stream, they should make every effort to inform the organiser prior to the day of the event. So, and this is a really important for some of you guys, if you really don't want to be on stream at an event, whack an email over to the organiser before the event. That would help. Now, in terms of concessions and IDs, intentional draws, this is something that a great number of you, especially if you're up around the top tables, may wish to get involved in. Now, this is very important, because when you get right up to the top tables, there will probably become a time where you're in a game where, if both of you choose to take a draw, you both make top cut. And you will want to do that. Or there will be a situation where, if you draw, neither of you makes top cut, so you make an agreement or want to make an agreement as to how to decide which of you wins and makes top cut if it would otherwise be a draw. And we see in a lot of bigger tournaments nowadays that everybody who goes X2, 2 or fewer losses, does make top cut. So there's no set number for top cut like there have been a lot in the past, and there are at some smaller tournaments. So that means that one of you could make top cut rather than 0. Now, in previous editions of the rules, it did outline how to go about doing a non-random determination of a winner. And let's be clear, you should never have a random. You should not be flipping a coin, etc. That is bad. It literally says players may not decide the result of a match through random means or through any other choosing method. Here's what they say in the document. The result of a match should be decided by gameplay above all else. However, players are permitted to concede to their opponent or to make a single offer to draw the game. That's only in the TCG. A player may decide to concede for any reason. However, Pokemon Organized Play does not recognize any informal agreements made between players regarding the outcome of a match prior to the signing of the match slip. Players should be aware that any such agreements will not be enforced by tournament staff. What that means is, you can have an agreement whereby whoever's ahead on prizes wins the game, or whoever's got more bench Pokemon wins the game, or whatever. You can do it by board state, but I would recommend against doing it by board state, because there's always some idiot out there that thinks their one bench Pokemon and heavily damaged active is a better board state because X, Y, and Z. You can do that, but Pokemon will not enforce it. We've all heard stories of players making an agreement and then choosing not to honour it at the end. The judge will not help you because they can't because of the rules. You have been warned. Now, in terms of card sleeves, they've actually removed a piece of language. There used to be a note there that said, fronts of sleeves must be clear, clean and free of designs, holograms and emblems that may obscure card information. And anybody that's played with Ultra Pro sleeves will know that every single sleeve has a little hologram on the front, albeit not one that really obscures information. That's gone away now, so we're good. Does make life an awful lot easier. Now, one thing that might be very, very relevant to some of you if you go to the World Championships or International Championships is that they've changed in terms of the languages. Now, the languages that can be used are the same as they were. I cannot see any changes. But they have made some exceptions. For the Pokemon TCG World Championships, International Championships, and for side events at either of these, regardless of which country they are hosted in, players are always permitted to use English cards as well as cards in any language that is legal in the player's home country. So let's say you're playing at the North American International Championships, where all the North American players have to play with English cards, because English cards are the only ones legal. Well, let's say you are a European player. You are allowed to use any European language card because you are coming from Europe. Very nice. Players are always permitted to use English cards as well as cards in any language that is legal in the player's home country. Now, in exceptional circumstances, a head judge or organiser of any tournament may also choose to make an exception to rules regarding the legal languages. This is at their sole discretion and should only be considered where there would be no operational detriment to the tournament in doing so. And then there is a note there as well that if you don't think you're going to be able to follow the rules, you should let them know as early as you possibly can. Now, one of the coolest things about this document, one of the things that makes me happiest, is that they are finally admitting that the Unlimited Tournament is a real thing. Now, the Unlimited Tournament's always been a real thing, it's just not shown up in the rules document before. Now it does! There's an actual factual section about the Unlimited format. It's not big, but it's there. Now, the other important thing is they've actually changed the rules a bit compared to other formats. As there is no restriction on the number of expansions legal for play in the Unlimited format, players will occasionally come across cards from older expansions that have the same name as newer cards but completely different effects. Players may still include those older versions in their decks, provided that the wording of the most recent version is used wherever that card is concerned. Now remember, in standard tournaments and expanded tournaments, you can only use older versions if they are the same or if they've received an official errata, like for instance Rare Candy has. And what this means is you can use base set computer search in the Unlimited format. It would still be an ace spec, it would still be limited to one of any ace spec in your deck, but you wouldn't need to go and find an expensive ace-spec computer search. You could use the base set one. In standard and expanded, you still have to go and find the expensive one. I'm sorry. Now, in terms of the play area, and we've all had this question at some point. We've all come across this. The question of when a card is actually considered to have been played. Well, we have a lovely little ruling here, and what it says is, cards that are placed into the play area from the hand without the effect of another card ability or effect are considered played at the point the player physically releases the card from their hand. If a player does not wish to play a card, they should not place it into the play area. The suggestion that PokeGym make, and I think this is an excellent suggestion, get the player to raise their hand. If they've placed it in the area and they raise the hand, then their hand should come up with no card in. If they haven't played it and placed it in the play area, they should raise their hand and it should be holding a card because they're still holding it. Of course, if players know that trick, they can try grabbing it, but I have enough faith in the judges that they'll figure it out. One of the coolest things in here for me is that judge balls are a thing. Judge ball! They're kind of a bit of an urban legend among some players. Now, it's actually referred to as judge-enforced progression. On extremely rare occasions, a situation may occur where one player is unable to draw a basic Pokemon despite completing an unprecedented number of mulligans. So let's say you're playing a quad deck. Back in the day, one of the big ones was Quad Terrakion, where you would literally play 4 Terrakion and no other cards. And it could take a while. We saw this more recently in Chandelier decks, where players would sometimes play like 4 Litwick and that was it. And you might have 7, 8, 9, 10 mulligans, 10 opening hands with no basics in. Well now, once a player has completed 8 mulligans without drawing a basic Pokemon, the judge may shuffle the player's deck, reveal cards on the top of the player's deck until a basic Pokemon is found and put it aside, shuffle the player's deck once more, and then the player draws 6 cards from the top of their deck. And then, of course, that is a hand of 7 because the basic Pokemon goes into it, and then indicate the game may proceed as normal. Judge balls have always been a thing, but there's not necessarily been certainty in them. Now there is 8 mulligans, judge ball. It doesn't say the judge must. It says the process may be initiated. That's very important. And then finally, penalties. 2 real changes you need to know about. Firstly, there is no more Tier 1 or Tier 2 penalties. The penalties in a big tournament will be the same as penalties in a smaller tournament. Be careful. And finally, in terms of deck list errors, they have removed the double prize penalty. There is no such thing as a double prize penalty for an illegal deck. Now, it used to be that when you had an illegal deck, you could get yourself a double prize card penalty. That is to say, your opponent, well, they don't draw cards anymore, but they would have to draw 2 fewer in order to win the game. That is no longer the case. There are 2 options for deck legality. Either you get a warning for a minor error, or a game loss for a severe error, or a disqualification if you're cheating, obviously. If you've made a minor error, it's now gone from a double prize penalty to a warning, which, it depends how you come down. You can see that as a good thing or not, but it's something you need to know about. Several of these rulings are extremely important for anyone that wants to go and play in tournaments, knowing about judge balls, knowing about the new penalties for deck list errors, knowing about the changes to card sleeves and the fact that agreements as to how a game should be decided will not be enforced by the judge, etc. And the fact that organisers can prioritise regulars. These are all pretty big things that you really need to know about. And now hopefully you do. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know what you think about all of these changes and whether you agree with them, whether you disagree, whether there are some other changes you would like to have seen implemented. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.